Welcome to another episode in our Securing Tomorrow podcast series with IBM Consulting. The focus today is on how to secure AI in the enterprise. The speed of AI adoption means that organizations are under pressure to embrace AI-led innovation or else risk being outpaced. But this comes with an entirely new and complex wave of threats that traditional cybersecurity solutions were not designed to address. So we're going to look at how to bridge the gap between rapid innovation and foundational security. So our first question is, how should organizations innovate whilst ensuring secure by design principles are embedded from the start? And Dinesh, could you provide some context?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Dan. So I think one of the things we need to start is understand the secure by design concept itself. By secure by design, essentially, and it's a concept that's been around for a while. Typically, it's in the application software development space. So by secure by design, what that means is when applications are designed and developed and built and deployed, you apply certain security tasks and activities in each one of the stages. And progressively, they secure the application as it moves on. So by the time the application goes under production, you have a baseline level of security that's applied to the application. Most of the vulnerabilities are fixed. It's been tested to a reasonable extent, and the security architecture and controls are already considered and built. So that's essentially the secure by design. And that's been a practice that's been around in the application development space. Now, in the context of AI, what we're then talking about is we're looking to make sure that the AI applications with their new threat vectors, the OAS top 10 capabilities and the threats are considered and addressed. So you also have new set of requirements that needs to be considered because you're building an AI application which has a completely different threat vector. So you're able to perform a defined set of tasks in each one of the stages of different application development in the AI and make sure that the AI application has got a robust security architecture, has got the right level of controls built in, and it's been tested and the vulnerabilities are being mitigated and addressed. And by the time the application goes on production, it's secure and it's secure from day one. One of the other principles of secure by design is by doing as early as possible in the life cycle, you're avoiding very expensive mistakes of trying to fix these issues in production. In some cases, it would take about up to 10 times more effort and cost to fix some of these security issues in production once the application goes in. So that's essentially what we mean by secure by design. And I'll talk more about IBM Consulting. We developed the MLSecOps framework that we bring specifically for AI applications. And how do you what are the different security steps you can follow within those different stages in the application development?
So be thoughtful, go early.
Yes.
Thank you. Johnny, what would you add?
To successfully innovate and deploy AI at scale, it's important that security is integrated from the very beginning as part of the core architecture. And this means that we're deploying security across the full AI stack, not from the development process through to DevOps through to runtime security. As we see the AI landscape evolving, it's important that we have a unified platform approach to this that enables us to see risks early and identify them and remediate and block them. If we think about that, the development process, providing developers with tools such as AI model scanning enables us to control what models developers can use. We block risky models. So in production, we're not having to remediate vulnerabilities that have been identified within an AI model. Think of AI red teaming. This gives us the ability to red team an AI application or agentic service before it goes into production. So when you produce these applications, we can push them into production and we know they're safe and secured against your policies and regulatory frameworks.
Thanks, Johnny. Jay, what would you add to what Johnny's covered?
So I think Johnny covered a lot of great points there as well. I think just to touch on the platformisation approach, and I think that's really key to carry on, is that what we're seeing across lots of organisations now is embracing a platformisation. So moving away from that fragmented silo of tools and other solutions that increase cost, negative performance, the blind spots. As Johnny said, having that platform approach gives you that full visibility of your ecosystem, whether it be AI models or agents, whatever it might be you're deploying, so you can actually have the full life cycle, the governance and security wrapped into one platform.
Thanks, Jay. Ben, what are you seeing in the field?
So Dan, in the field we are very much seeing the adoption of that mature, secure DevOps approach. So maintaining secure code right through the life cycle into production. I think we have AppSec champions embedded into development teams, and the remit for those AppSec champions will be to review the security of those AI models through that life cycle to ensure that it's captured early and those vulnerabilities are addressed early in the cycle.
Excellent. So we're pulling cybersecurity a lot earlier in that development cycle, all the way up front, and making sure that it's consistent all the way through.
Agree. Yeah, it's good practice.
Fantastic. Dinesh, do you have any words in conclusion?
Yeah, I think one of the words in the question was about innovate, right? So one of the things we've learned in the Secure by Design is about giving the teams flexibility to operate at scale and speed. So your framework in the security space, typically security is seen as a blocker, slowing down things and so on. But one of the things we've learned, the lessons we learned and what we have adapted our framework is to allow developers to very rapidly stand up an application and test and validate, the business ROI and all the things that they want to do. So still operate at speed and scale, but with security in mind, with some certain security elements that needs to be considered upfront. So when a experiment comes to fruition, it still has a valid business case, it's secure, and it's able to, take that in production. So business benefits from rapidly innovating and then being able to take that to the market, right? So I think they are able to achieve the ROI. So that's a key point that also need to be considered, because that's where innovation comes into play, where you're able to give them a platform to operate at scale and speed.
Perfect, thank you. Our second question focuses on the cybersecurity gap that rapid AI adoption, both by organizations and, of course, threat actors, presents. How can we detect, defend, and recover from AI-driven cyber threats that traditional tools cannot see? Johnny, would you like to open this up?
Yes, sure, Dan. So what we're seeing here at Palo Alto Networks is that traditional security tools and even the native guardrails provided by the foundational Gen AI model providers aren't sufficient. They don't protect you against sophisticated jailbreak type attacks or advanced adversarial prompt injection type attacks. So to do this, these failures cause major blind spots, and they allow attackers to compromise models that could lead to sensitive data leakage or compromising of your AI ecosystem. To address this, at Palo Alto Networks, we're focused on real-time protection. We do this with AI runtime security from Prisma AIRS. What we have the capability is, think prompt injection. We identify 25 different types of prompt injection type attacks. Think data loss prevention or sensitive data leakage. We have thousands of data patterns that we protect against. So if someone tries to, for instance, compromise a model to steal credit card details or sensitive banking information, we have the controls in place to block that and ensure that your AI applications and services aren't compromised. And that could be a very embarrassing leak and reputational damage and such likes.
Thanks, Johnny. Dinesh, how does IBM Consulting advise its clients on this question?
Yeah, thanks for that question. To add to what Johnny's saying, the way consulting does, so we provide managed services for clients, especially in the threat management operation space. So we monitor our clients' infrastructure environment to detect threats and help them respond and recover against any sophisticated threats. Now, in this case, what happens with an AI-driven, cyber threats is we need to understand that the threat actors are, stepping up their game. They're using AI to fine-tune those attacks. They are, increasing the velocity, the speed at which they attack, and the veracity, and the effectiveness of some of these attacks are increasing because they're using AI. So your traditional historic tools will not be able to detect at the speed at which you need to understand, what is happening with your environment, and to be able to respond in a way that you're able to mitigate the attack, the impact of the attack into your environment, and limit the level of exposure, right? So IBM Consulting, we looked at this area, and then we've worked on building what we call as Atom, which is an autonomous threat machine, which is essentially based on agentic AI capability. Now, what it does is it looks at the whole threat detection and response space and actually automates all of the elements, the volume of data that comes in. The agents look at the data, consume that information, and only remove all the false positives and identify the specific threat that require attention and action and do the complete triage. And then you have agents which are perfected with our playbooks that IBM has perfected over a period of time, how to respond to certain types of attacks. They trigger those playbooks automatically. So then the response comes in to look at what those attacks are, understanding where the stages of attack is. So then you're able to provide the organization ability to recover from them and stop those attacks before they increase the level of exposure, right? So that's the asset that we built. And in cases where we are, partnering with companies like Palo Alto Networks, we're actually, bringing the power of the underlying technology platform that is able to speed up those detection, threat, and fine-tuning the level of threats that are coming through and identifying the key threats that needs an action. And then you bring the Atom asset on top of that, then clients essentially get a significantly improved capability to stop and detect and respond quicker. So therefore, they're able to prevent to a large extent some of these sophisticated threats that how we see the threat actors are going to evolve.
So Ben, Dinesh and Johnny have just described how really you need to use AI to fight this new AI-based threat attacks that we're seeing. What challenges does this present for customers?
Well, we need to get the foundation in place to be able to leverage those capabilities. And what we're seeing at the clients I work with, a global bank, is looking at some multiple transformational programs to move away from point solutions to a more outcome-based approach. So those transform programs are around the SOC, around the identity platform, and it's to move away from siloed data stores where that data isn't readily available to all of the integrated systems, to a more joined up data store that AI models, agentic AI models, can leverage and respond to quicker and more effectively.
Thanks, Ben. So you've got disparate data stores. If you're not careful, you've got this data engineering challenge to knit them all together to be able to make sense of the data for AI to be able to do its thing on top of that. Jay, what would we add to that?
So I think just to add on Ben's points there around the data aspect here, and I think one of the things we're all aware of is data is key when it comes to AI, and it's about using the right data to give the right outcomes with any of our AI systems. And one of the things that we're doing here at Palo Alto Networks is the use of what we call precision AI, which is an AI data set which is built on generative AI, machine learning, and deep learning principles as well, that brings together a really rich data set from cloud, endpoint, and network telemetry that allows us to power all of our platforms and systems. So it really empowers security teams to make the right decisions, do a lot of the first call, the triaging as well, and embedded in solutions like our Cortex XSIAM as well, again, drawing on that rich data to give a really powerful security outcomes.
Thank you. And I see that our precision AI is endorsed by Keanu Reeves.
Apparently so.
Dinesh, any concluding remarks?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I think organizations need to understand is using AI for cybersecurity is no more a nice thing. It's not a choice anymore. It is very critical and it's imperative. In this landscape where threat actors are increasingly using AI to perpetrate attacks, you have to leverage AI to augment your security operations and help transform your security to bring it to the level that you need to be in order to limit the breaches or limit the exposure to your organization. So if you have the capability internally, you can build AI applications or assets that's going to help you improve or transform your operations. Or in other cases, you also need to consider taking advantage of security platforms that are available today, which comes with all these innovations comes in, right? You can save the time and effort and energy to be able to do that, take advantage of innovations already done and actually leverage it. So that will become a number one critical element in most organizations' security strategy for something that they need to consider immediately.
So in essence, yesterday's solutions are not going to solve today and tomorrow's problems. And if you're not careful, AI could be a data engineering problem unless you put it all together in a single platform.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Now let's focus on trust. As AI moves from providing answers to taking actions, so agentic AI, we face a fundamental governance crisis. So our third question is, what governance and assurance models are needed to ensure AI systems are transparent, auditable, and resilient under attack? Would you like to set the scene, Dinesh?
Thanks, Dan. Yes. So I think before we dive into the question, I think it's good to take a step back and understand what does agentic AI applications mean. So they are a group of applications or agents in this context which operate autonomously, completely autonomously, or semi-autonomously, or with very little user interaction. So typically they are goal-oriented, so which means they are set to accomplish a task. And they have the right authorization to be able to do that. In some cases, agents are set to be proactive. They are essentially monitor data, they look at certain events, or they can be programmed to understand certain contexts and take appropriate actions. And again, all within a user context. Now, this is essentially what the agentic AI in a broader sense means. And there is an application or use case in agentic AI across everywhere. And I think Ben is going to talk about how IBM Consulting is going to be applies agentic AI in a cybersecurity context. This is the AI for cybersecurity. Now, what it means from a governance and assurance standpoint is in the current normal, let's say, security operations without the AI, you have operations that measure, monitor, and understand, what is happening within your network, who's got the right access, whether the people have the right level of access to data, and how is information consumed, and so on. So you have full information, visibility, transparency. More importantly, you're able to demonstrate to audit teams or external compliance team how security is built in, and therefore you're protecting your data, you're complying with regulations and so on. So you got to be able to bring all of those processes to monitor agentic AI. And that's the challenge, right? And I'm saying it as a challenge, but that's something that organizations need to evolve into. And they come up with some unique challenges, right? So I think that's essentially where this needs to be taken into consideration.
Thanks for providing the context there, Dinesh. Jay, could you provide the Palo Alto Network's viewpoint?
Certainly. And I think, from Dinesh's point there about the visibility, the auditing, everything like that, it's exactly the same thing here when we look at the AI applications and AI agents, in that you need that complete coherent view of your AI ecosystem in the same way that you would at any other part of your security ecosystem. So, first things first is getting that view, understanding everything, the dependencies of those agents or applications, the identities, permissions. And when you have all that, that's, you're able to then to start applying security effectively. So for us here at Palo Alto Networks, again, it's about that unified platform approach. And for us, that is Prisma AIRS, which is giving you the visibility across, all of your AI applications, the agents, the models, giving you, deep insight into what are those applications and agents have, the permissions, and all those things like that. And that is the foundational standpoint for us to start securing those agents whilst they're in play.
Thanks, Jay. Johnny, could you take that one step further?
Yeah, from a technical perspective, achieving traceability means treating AI agents as identities. When an agent makes a decision or an agent takes an action, it's important that we have indisputable evidence and proof of what that activity was. Think of this as sort of implementing zero trust principles for AI agents. And at Palo Alto Networks, we have runtime protection built into Prisma AIRS for agentic AI. And that is, we look at the agent, we look at the workflows of the agent from the requests through to the responses. And when something doesn't look right, or perhaps there's a hacker has compromised an agent, we have that ability to block that request, and we also have the ability to block the response. So we secure that agentic workflow, and we secure the agents live in production.
Perfect, thanks, Johnny. So Ben, agentic AI agents, are they all bad?
No, Dan, they're not. So we've been working with our clients around some of the benefits that AI agents can bring them. And one such agentic AI asset that IBM has developed on Palo Alto Networks technology is Atom. So Atom performs the threat hunting, accelerates threat detection, creates the remediation plans, but also starts those triage activities But the end goal of that, or the net gain of that, is on the productivity level. So saving our clients lots of man hours in those areas, and allowing those analysts to do more value tasks. We also have other assets around Ask IAM and our digital AppSec champion that do very much the same from a productivity standpoint.
Thanks, Ben. Dinesh, would you like to wrap up?
Yeah, 100%. So I think just to extend Ben's point, I think the agentic AI fundamentally, is a great asset and a tool that most organizations are looking to achieve, because it's going to automate, not just automation, but it's also be able to do things more consistently and at scale that otherwise is very challenging. And cybersecurity space is very interesting. I think one of the things, as more and more agentic AI are being built into business environment, we know that clients are looking to build their critical processes using agentic AI, right? So the resiliency of agentic AI becomes critically important. What threat actors are going to slowly evolve is they're going to start attacking the agentic AI itself. So you don't just look at all the security elements in controlling access and everything else, but you also need to make sure that there are no cyber threat exploiting agentic AI for whatever purposes that they want to achieve. So that's one of the other things that they need to take into consideration, which also means you need to have that technical governance assurance capability all integrated together and operate seamlessly for you to give the confidence and assurance to be able to scale this across the enterprise.
So in conclusion, agentic AI agents here to stay. Great tool, productivity benefits for customers, but you need to treat them as users, privilege them, and then put the appropriate guardrails around the infrastructure with a consolidated platform for your data underneath. So we've discussed the critical need for security and governance in AI. Now we confront the most complex challenge of agentic AI, when AI moves from simply providing answers to taking autonomous actions, bringing, of course, speed and scale, but also introducing new levels of risk. So the question is, what controls, boundaries, and oversight mechanisms are required for AI agents with decision-making authority? Dinesh, would you like to start?
Sure. I think I'll start with the way IBM Consulting has looked at this. And as Ben said previously, we've developed some AI assets and AI agents using the agentic AI capability, and it's primarily to solve challenges in the cybersecurity space. But on a broader side, IBM Consulting has developed our own agents. We've also deployed at scale within IBM for our own internal use. So we've developed a framework essentially to govern agentic AI. I think one of the key things that Johnny talked about is the zero trust principle. So that's a key foundation for agentic AI. You got to have a clear view of how you got to look at the agents. What are the controls required? Identity and access management. Having a stronger identity authorization requirement is one of the fundamental elements aside from zero trust principles. But you also need to understand the AI agents and their stack, the AI security stack, infrastructure stack rather. Do you have the right level of controls for these new capabilities? With your current security control mechanism, you would not be able to have full coverage of what an agent operates, how they access data. And in some cases, there's also agent-to-agent communication, and then there's agent-to-application communication. So you have a lot of these varying new kind of channels that come into play. You got to make sure that you secure all of them. So having a framework that does that is important, but also you have a consistent way of standardized controls that are being applied, irrespective of where the agents are, how it's hosted, what data is being used. One of the things we see is there's going to be a proliferation of agents. There's agents that's going to be available in pretty much in every technology platform, every provider, and users can easily create agents. It's been made so simple. That's how the industry direction they're going. So an user will be able to start an agent and being able to make the agent do tasks that they are doing. How do we make sure that that agent is only undertaking the task within that user's permission and has the right level of access to data, doesn't inadvertently leak data or send information to an external party, for example, where it's not supposed to do, right? So it brings a whole bunch of compliance issue. So I think to be able to have that visibility of the agents, having a control framework where you know that what are the operating boundaries of an agent should be and how it should be allowed to operate, and defining that and implementing that through a technology platform is essential. You can't do this manually trying to control or looking at data and collecting that data. So I think that's a very essential element of how organizations should look at it and how we've done it. And we are also helping other clients implement this framework in our own established ways.
So boiling all of that complexity down to a simple framework to get your dependencies aligned. So how would Palo Alto Networks see this, Johnny?
Well, the way I would see it, Dan, is that the primary risk when you're deploying agentic AI is overly permissive access. And that could be where perhaps you're developing your own agents, perhaps you're building agents through agent builder platforms, and you perhaps have given an agent full admin access to a certain data set or to a certain asset, or perhaps your policy and controls, they're perhaps a bit thin in terms of the identity checks that you're doing. And for us at Palo Alto Networks, we believe in building a set of guardrails in from the very start. And think of this as perhaps least privilege enforcement. So giving the agent the least amount of privileges that it needs to access, for instance, data to complete a task. Secondly, you may want to set up sub or subordinate agents. And think of that as perhaps the agent has to complete a risky task or a specific step in a workflow. What you might want to do is to give that agent authority, and that way then, if that agent was ever compromised, you limit the blast radius of what can happen or what an attacker can do. So you're effectively segmenting that part of the process. And thirdly then, what we can do is we will always say continuous protection. And at Palo Alto Networks, we have deployed and built a part of our Prisma AIRS platform, a specific agentic AI security construct, where we have the ability to enforce specialized agentic AI runtime protections. And also we give you the full posture of the agent, where we can identify where an agent is being built with overly permissive access. And we have the ability then to remediate that and bring that agent down or unpublish that agent.
Fantastic. So it sounds like templates and blueprints from IBM Consulting and guardrails from Palo Alto Networks is a perfect combination.
You got it, Wanda.
Thank you. So our final question focuses on the broader societal landscape. Governments worldwide are crafting new AI regulations, and customers' trust is now non-negotiable. So our final question is, how do we align our AI and cybersecurity strategies to meet evolving regulatory, ethical and societal expectations? And we will kick this one off with Jay.
Thank you, Dan. So I think, first off, I think we have to all agree we're at an inflection point now with AI. The genie's out the bottle, and it's, going to drive innovation going forward. But I think, if we look at from a organisational standpoint and our, the business leaders, they're having to keep pace with this. So, I think the old adage that security is holding back innovation is no longer true. And we need to think now, how do we align AI and security very strategically to drive things forward, so we can give business leaders the confidence to deploy AI at scale. And that means, again, keeping pace with the regulatory changes, the societal expectations that we've been talking about. And again, I think that comes back to a very unified approach, platform-driven approach that allows us to get that full visibility of everything that's happening, from an AI perspective, whether you're deploying agents, as we've talked about, whether you're building your own models or other applications at that point as well. And I think, that allows then to ensure that we have the governance, as I say, the oversight, and as I said before, the confidence to empower leaders to move forward.
Thank you, Jay. So what about helping people have the confidence to use AI effectively? Dinesh, what would you add?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we need to look at is, I think the regulatory space is interesting, right? If you look at the spectrum, on one hand, you could say the EU AI Act is on one side of the spectrum, which is very stringent about how AI is going to be used and what are the implications if for something going wrong or if data is leaked and so on. There's some very stringent penalties. But then there is the other side of the spectrum where governments are looking at a little bit more flexible or a little bit more open kind of approach, irrespective of the way you look at it. there are some very clear elements that needs to be done, right? So we largely talked about security and security governance. There is the wider AI governance piece. AI has some inherent risk. It could be a bias or a hallucination, and there are these risks that needs to be considered. So you got to bring in, one of the best way to align is to bring the AI governance and security into the same fold. Look at it holistically rather than looking at it separately in isolated fashion. And also the ethical elements on, where to use AI, what to use AI, how you're going to deploy AI, even within the business space. So all of that needs to be brought together and need to look at, how they can be done. IBM Consulting and IBM actually has been using AI for a fairly long time, and we developed a very mature, ethical, and a responsible use of AI model. And we're helping a lot of clients actually adopt that similar kind of a model. And I think it's irrespective of how the regulations come, it normally follows the normal organizational responsibilities and accountabilities that organizations are already accountable for. They're accountable for the data that they leverage, how they use the data, and the AI comes in similar. So that would be one of the things that I would touch on about get AI governance as a single cohesive activity rather than an isolated set of things that need to look at all of them in the same lens.
Thank you, Dinesh. Johnny, what would we add?
In order to ensure that your AI applications and perhaps your agentic systems are compliant and meet your regulatory frameworks, it's important to have a unified view across all of these systems. Having a fragmented approach where perhaps you have a certain point solution or a certain tool to provide a certain security function, think of the developer tools or something like that, it won't give everyone the full picture. So you're going to create blind spots. You've no contextualized information across your whole AI ecosystem, so you're open to attack. With Palo Alto Networks and Prisma AIRS, what we provide is we give CXOs full visibility, control and compliance. We give that view. Take our AI red teaming, for instance. We can red team applications and agents before they're ever in production. We can map that to a compliance report or a regulatory framework. Think in the 600, think the OWASP top 10 for LLMs, or perhaps even the MITRE ATT&CK framework. That way you have full visibility, you have full compliance, and you have full regulatory control of all of your AI systems. That way you have the assurance that you can deploy at scale and innovation isn't held back by security.
Fantastic. So security as a innovator enabler there. Ben, what would you add?
I don't have too much more to add that these chaps haven't raised already, but we do certainly, at the customers I work with, we have those governance frameworks in place today. And once the AI regulations come in, those frameworks will have to adjust and adapt accordingly. But we do work with external regulators today around data security and data privacy. And a lot of those frameworks will remain in place and in fact be a core component of AI regulation moving forward. So we're certainly not there yet, but we have a good standing point ready to adopt when these things come in.
Fantastic. So I think in summary, it's a cross-functional, cross-organizational challenge, but with the right processes, with the right thoughts, with the right platform, it can be achieved. So thank you for your attention. The message from today's series on security for AI is clear. Alignment is achieved when security is viewed as a strategic business driver rather than a technical cost. And of course, to harness the power of AI safely, we must institute cross-functional oversight and demand that every AI action is mapped to an authorized identity and a purpose code. Trust is built through transparent, measurable outcomes, leading to demonstrable operational efficiencies and compliance. Thank you to our speakers from IBM Consulting and Palo Alto Networks for providing their insight. If you found this discussion interesting and would like to know more, please look us up on your favorite podcast site under the heading Securing Tomorrow, and you can find us on YouTube under the Palo Alto Networks channel. Many thanks.